Hello everybody and welcome back to a brand new Elder Scrolls Online news video with me, Sherman. Today guys, we're going to be talking about the patch update 5.1.0 on the PTS, but we're going to be doing the update 23 patch notes and everything that's coming with that, and there is a lot, so be prepared for a lot of stuff. So first, combat abilities and changes. It says developer notes. In the theme of our ongoing ability audit, many of this update's ability adjustments have been set on the goal of bringing values such as healing and damage per second and cost to be more consistent with one another. We believe that auxiliary effects and passives that are paired with these abilities are the primary means of adding depth and variety to each ability, or in each individual ability. While the core function should remain relatively close to you, or close, so you have an easier time discerning effectiveness of these abilities, and there are less overall situations of dead abilities. Many changes you'll see also strive to add more consistency to behavior of how abilities interact with things like critical strike chance or scaling mechanisms, in hopes to remove some of the many hidden expertise moments where some abilities just feel weaker for certain builds because of the arbitrary mechanisms and required failure to learn. This being said, we also want to make it clear that our standards are not unflinching, and just because we've done a pass of abilities with this audit, it doesn't mean we will never return to make adjustments. The goal of standardization we've had with update 21 and 22 is not done under the guide that our standards are perfect, but rather the focus on consistency and order. The concept of balance is highly contextual, so we've taken the stance of reining in the varied behaviors of our incredibly dynamic game, so we can do a better job of moving forward, addressing abilities that fall out of line. So what they're saying is they want to they're trying to keep their idea of the game, play how you want, a standard. So that's what they're sticking to, is this game is play how you want. We want you to play how you want. We want you to use the abilities and the skills that best represent your play style, and we want you to have fun with it. But at the same time, we want to bring other skills in line with all the skills. So that's pretty much what they're doing. And they're not standardizing them or doing like a lot of people think, where they're making a lot of skills work in identical form. They're giving them similar functionality while still giving them that capability to work effectively for what they want it to do. So let's go ahead and talk about the general changes first. So they increase the duration of off-balance effects on all its player sources to 7 seconds from 5 seconds to improve the window it may be interacted with. Note, we are still investigating additional message improvements to help make it more obvious when it activates. So the off-balance now has a 7-second activation window, so you have 7 seconds instead of 5. This is going to actually help off balance a lot. Alright, all players' sources of bleeds will now respect a target's physical resistance. Many adjustments have been made to ensure bleeds deal similar damage to other standard damage over time effects. They do have a note here that says this change was done to reduce the volatility of effectiveness of these abilities in PvE and PvP. Ignoring mitigation was detrimental to this due to the high swings of character optimization with varying builds while always being static, and then while fighting monsters, leaving many dead zones and problem spaces. We're aware of the concerns of high mitigation that is currently obtainable in the game, and we've targeted some other areas such as the Oblivion damage to offset the loss of these tools. So this is really cool. I'm glad that they're doing this. I know a lot of people are going to be mad by the Oblivion damage change, but I think that this is a good change. See, bleeds could bypass mitigation, so it would do its maximum amount. Now it doesn't. Now it has to go through your mitigation of physical resistance That means it can't do as much damage as it once did. That means that damage is being brought down. That means DPS is going to drop for a lot of people, but it's also going to get brought back more in line because now you can use things like Oblivion damage to offset that damage loss. You will no longer be stuck sprinting if you manage to be accosted by a guard while sprinting, even though you were pretty terrified. Okay, we get the joke. Ground target abilities will now be unqueued after weapon swapping. This should help reduce situations where you could become stuck casting one of these abilities, such as Grand Healing or Lightning Splash. Thank you for fixing that. Fixed numerous instances where well-timed ability uses from charges, leaps, teleports, blinks, and pulls could allow you to bypass collision. That's another good fix. And then many damage over time abilities, both single target and area of effects, have been re-standardized to follow similar behaviors to other ability types. Area of effect dots will now be 33% weaker than a single target dot counterpart, and 30% more, and will cost 30% more. Just like direct damage AoEs versus single target ones. Now it says there is a developer comment here. We are going to go ahead and read this. The duration of these over-the-time effects are equated into the total cost per second, rather than the single, simply following a base is a dot. Catch all costs. So you can expect to see many adjustments to abilities of this nature in the update. We've also rebalanced more of these ability types in the game to help all classes gain access to sources of them and reduce situations where abilities were being merely used as for passive slots. Okay, that makes a lot of sense, actually. They adjusted the animation and cast time for many ultimates that are meant to have high impact to better scrutinize their attacks to their animation. These abilities cannot be interrupted, and canceling them or being stopped while casting them will not consume your ultimate. This affects the following abilities. So Deathstroke and Morphs added 400 millisecond cast time to these abilities to sync up with their animations. Dawnbreaker and its Morphs got 400 millisecond cast time to these abilities. Berserker Strike added... Oh, Berserker Strike and Morphs got 400 seconds added to it. Ooh. Soul Shred and Morphs got 500 milliseconds, and Lacerate and Morphs got 500 milliseconds, rather than 500 millisecond delay they had before. Okay, that's cool. I actually like that. Improve the responsiveness of leaving or CC breaking knock-up and knockback abilities, and increase the standard range of knockbacks to 8 meters from 6. Wow. Fixed numerous issues where area of effect damage over time abilities were being considered direct damage in some circumstances. They will now always be treated as damage over time. This will help their tooltips reference proper modifiers such as Thaumaturge. That's cool. Pets will now properly gain 5,000 health from Battle Spirit rather than having their max health increased by 5,000, but not healing for the difference. Fixed an issue where the default telegraphs of area of effect abilities would occasionally not appear in some PvP areas. And then the source of stamina health magicka cost reduction that are obtained from passive abilities and item sets are now all multiplicative, rather than being a mixture of additive and multiplicative. So this is going to definitely help the resource cost reduction stuff a lot. This was done to, for a more streamlined behavior across the board and limit the opportunity to reduce ability costs to 0 by stacking multiple sources of cost reduction. Below is a list of the affected sources that also had adjustments made to them, since they will ultimately increase the cost of abilities when using multiple sources of cost reduction. Restoring Spirit, they increased the cost at rank 2 to 5%. Unholy Knowledge increased the cost of rank 2 to 6%. The Vampire Lord set increased to 6% from 5%. Reduced the Seducer set, they increased it to 10% from 8%. And Eyes of Mara set has been increased to 15% from 12%. So these things, if you guys don't know, Restoring Spirit would reduce the cost of things by 4%. Now it's 5%. and I think that's on the Templar. So the Templar gets 5% reduced cost to ultimates, magicka, and stamina abilities. That's cool. Unholy Knowledge, they increased the cost reduction to 6% from 5%. Vampire Lord set, they increased the cost reduction to 6% from 5%. And Seducers is 10% cost reduction now. Holy crap. And Eyes of Mara is 15%. That's crazy. That is nuts, but I like it. Resource agnostic sources of healing will now use your highest critical strike chance rather than default of your spell critical only. Resource agnostic refers to the abilities that utilize only your max health to scale or are based on flat values. Below is the listed affected abilities. So these are abilities, if you guys don't know, if the thing scales with your max health, the ability does, it would go off your spell critical. Now it's not going to, so this means tanks don't have to build for spell crit. They can actually build for stamina crit, which is going to make their heals more effective for them when they're playing tanks, but it's also going to give them the ability to build for stamina or magicka, which is really good. So I like this change. This is a great change. Bitter Harvest and its morphs, Death Size and its morphs, Dragon Blood and Green Dragon Blood now scale off your max stamina instead of max critical strike of stamina or magicka. So that's cool. Weapon crit or stam crit. That, I like this. This is awesome. Battle Roar, Killer's Blade, Mark Target and its morphs, Siphoning Strikes and its morphs, Repentance, Blood Magic, Dark Exchange, Summon Unstable Clan Fear, Special Activate, Bond with Nature, Arctic Wind, Bone Goliath, Absorb Missiles, Consuming Trap, Undaunted Command, Unflinching Rage, Resourceful, Drain Essence, Feed, and Heresy. Oh my, you guys just made my day. Holy crap. This is awesome. The abilities listed below now properly use Precise Strikes to scale rather than Elfborn, since they are stamina abilities. Leeching Strikes, Killer's Blade, Dark Exchange, and Dark Conversion, Ruinous Scythe, Absorb Missiles, and Draining Shot all scale off of Precise Strikes now. Yes! Player-sourced Oblivion damage now deals its damage based on the target's affected max health, with a maximum damage threshold to prevent them from dealing obscene damage against elite enemies. Oblivion damage continues to bypass positive and negative bonuses and cannot be blocked or shielded. So this bypasses all damage mitigation. This is the only ability or damage type that does that. So the decreased health, the Oblivion damage enchant, the max health percent from this enchant deals will now only scale with the enchantment's quality. So common, uncommon, epic, and legendary. But their maximum damage will scale in the traditional sense, where the value is based on your enchantment level and quality. So the maximum bonus of health percentage these enchantments can do is 3.75 at legendary quality and CP 160. So that means the max damage one of these things can do is 48.75 on a two-handed. Oh my god. That is awesome. Slowed Semblance now deals 3% of the target's max health per tick, up to a maximum. The health percentage it now deals is now static, while the maximum damage is based on your item set's average level and quality. The maximum damage it can deal is 3,000 Oblivion damage per tick. Night Slayer, this set can now proc any target instead of only players. It continues to deal 8% of the target's max health with a fully charged heavy attack. The maximum damage dealt will scale based on the average item set level, up to a maximum 8,000 Oblivion damage. This right here is probably some of the coolest changes I've seen, because there's some new builds I want to make because of this. Holy crap. Developer's comment for this. Oblivion damage has now been designed to fulfill the role of a giant slayer. In order to help balance its purpose where it deals much less damage to targets who do not specialize heavily into survivability, while becoming much stronger against high health targets. We also wanted to ensure that Oblivion damage had a role in PvE, where it could be used as a baseline without overperforming other forms of damage that require heavy investment and optimization. Optimize their impact. Note that Oblivion damage will continue to bypass all forms of mitigation and bonuses, and will be unable to critically strike. Fixed an issue causing some players to be visible to fellow group members. That's an ongoing bug that just keeps haunting us. Buffs and debuffs. Major heroism. Fixed an issue where the source from major heroism would stack with any other, including Hanu's Compassion and the Last Stand passive. Minor lifesteal. The heal from this bonus will now use the activator's highest critical strike chance rather than only spell critical. Oh my god. Guys have no idea like how much this is improving the game. Alright, now we're moving on to class stuff, starting with Dragon Knight. Ardent Flame. And this is where people are going to get a little mad. But you know what? Let's see what happens. Let's give us some time to test this stuff so we can come back with giving you guys our feedback. And not only to the devs, but also the community. You guys got to give us some time, alright? So Combustion, they decreased the cooldown from this passive to 2 seconds from 5 seconds. This was done to help alleviate any of the duration-based ability cost increases, as well as helping the passive synergize with more build customization, such as using the charged trait. Awesome. Fiery Breath. They increased the cost of this ability and its morphs to 2808 from 2700. They decreased the dot damage per tick by approximately 15%. Okay, I can live with that. Lava Whip. Molten Whip reduces the stacking spell damage bonus from this passive to 75 at rank 4 from 125. Okay, I can live with that too. Searing Strike. Fixed an issue where the visual effects from this ability and its morphs would fail to apply if the target was blocking. Ooh. They increased the cost up to 2160 from 1350 and increased the dot damage by approximately 26% per tick. Oh god. Searing Strike's going to do some insane damage, guys. And that includes both morphs. Earth and Heart, Ash Cloud. So they decreased the healing from this ability and its morphs by approximately 30%, but increased the cost of the morph to 5670 from 4590. And Cinderstorm, this morph now has 50% stronger than the base ability, which will result in approximately a 1% heal reduction comparatively, and Eruption reduced the damage over time by 30% per tick. So Ash Cloud is definitely going to be nerfed a little, but at the same time, I think it's bringing it more in line with what they said. It was a super powerful heal over time. But now it's going to be brought in line with other heal over times, area of effect heal over times, and I think that's what needed to happen. Petrify, they increased the cost of this ability to 4,050 from 2,970. This ability no longer ranks up in cost reduction, but instead ranks up to 1.1% damage per rank, and they reduced the range of the ability to 7 meters from 8 meters. Shattering Rocks, they fixed an issue where the heal from this ability was missing a previous rank up, which will result in approximately a 3% increase in the healing. Holy crap, awesome. Nightblades. Got some changes, guys. Assassination, Grim Focus. Fixed an issue where the Spectral Bow from this ability and its morphs could consume all of your stacks even if you failed to fire the projectile. They reduced the amount of mitigation the stacking bonus would have to 2% from 3%. This means a 10% increase in damage mitigation. This is a lot better. It's not so powerful. Mark Target, this ability and the Reaper's Mark ability are now considered 1 negative effect instead of 3. Piercing Mark will count as 2 due to the reveal aspect, and the conditional if the target dies bonus from this ability and its morphs will no longer proc when using on pets. Teleport Strike. Lotus Fan. Decreased the damage per tick of the dot by approximately 22% and fixed an issue where the final tick was not being affected by minor vulnerability. Sweet. Shadow, concealed weapon. Fixed an issue where casting this ability from a crouch would apply the stun to your target, but not animate the stun. Path of Darkness, twisting path, decrease the damage per tick by approximately 14%, and refreshing path. They fixed an issue where the ability could heal you twice per tick after the first heal applied. Increase the healing per tick by approximately 29%. Note that the heal will be stronger than the twisting damage potential because twisting also gains increased area coverage. Shadow Cloak. Fixed an issue where this ability in Shadow Disguise Morph could fail to cast if you had Prevent Attacking Innocence turned on. And this ability and Shadow Disguise now lasts for Morph now lasts 3 seconds at base, but no longer affected by Dark Veil passive. This was done to help low-level characters utilize the skill. Summon Shade. Increase the cost of this ability to 40-50 from 2,700. Dark Shade. Reduce the damage of hit of Corrosive Flurry by approximately 90%. The area of attack Corrosive Slash now deals the same damage as a normal attack instead of dealing 20% bonus damage. Okay. Siphoning, Drain Power, Power Extraction. This morph no longer increases the damage dealt of the attack, but instead reduces the weapon damage of enemies hit by 300 weapon damage for 8 seconds. I'm not even going to say anything. I'm going to be using that. Cripple, decrease the cost of this ability and its morphs to 2970 from 3240 and increase the damage by approximately 17% per tick. Crippling Grasp, they increase the initial hit damage by approximately 37% and decrease the dot damage by approximately 2%. That's crazy. Oh my god, I'm going to love my Nightblade. Sorcerer, Dark Magic, Crystal Shards, decrease the cost of this ability and its morphs to 2970 from 3510 and decrease the damage by approximately 10%. Crystal Blast, the AoE portion of this ability now deals the same damage as the initial hit. Crystal Fragments, they increase the bonus damage dealt off of the proc of this ability to 33% from 20% and retain the damage of the proc. Oh my god. Daedric Summoning, Conjuring Ward, reduce the shield size of this ability and the Empowered Ward morph by approximately 18% and increase the cost of this ability to 4320 from 3510. These changes were done to make them more comparable to the Damage Shield Burst Heal standard. Empowered Ward, the final cost of this ability is now 3780 and it no longer gains 1.1% shield size per rank, and it already has the cost reduction rank up. Hardened Ward, reduced the shield size of this ability by approximately 9%. Okay, so Hardened Ward's still going to be the tank shield, and Empowered Ward's going to be like the group support shield. Alright. Rebate, fixed an issue where this passive would discount if you procced it. Summon Unstable Familiar, they decrease the special ability of this summon and the Volatile Familiar to 2808 from 3510. They increase the damage per tick by approximately 8% based on the ability, but reduce the damage per tick to Volatile by approximately 3% since it was using the wrong rank up. Summoning Unstable Clan Fear, they reduce the healing granted from the special activation of this ability by approximately 14% to ensure it is in line with other burst heal abilities such as Rush Ceremony and Dragon's Blood. Okay. Summon Twilight. Winged Twilight. The zap and kick attacks from the Twilight and its morphs will now do the same damage to help reduce volatility in performance. They reduce the damage of the Winged Twilight and the Twilight Matriarch by approximately 69% per hit. Summon Twilight Tormentor, reduce the damage dealt by the Twilight zap and kick by approximately 33%. These will now rank up 1.1% per rank rather than 5%. Okay. Storm Calling, Bolt Escape. This ability and its morph stuns can no longer be blocked. Ooh. Bolt Escape of Fatigue. Reduce the ramping cost increase of the Bolt Escape or its morphs to 33% per stack from 50%, so it operates closer to roll dodge. Okay. Overload. The hitbox from this ability's heavy attack will now properly update when fighting dragons. Fixed an issue where the heavy attack augment from these abilities was not gaining the 70% damage increase from the heavy attack off-balance enemies. And then Lightning Splash, they decreased the cost of this ability and its morphs to 3024 and decreased the damage per tick by approximately 37%. Liquid Lightning, this morph no longer increases the damage per rank and now lasts 9 seconds, ranking up to 12 seconds at rank 4. Oh. Alright, moving on. Adric's Templar, Adric Spear, Puncturing Strikes, they reduce the cost of this ability to 2700. Biting Jabs retains the 15% cost reduction. Spear Shards decrease the cost of this ability in its morphs to 3024. And decrease the dot damage of Spear Shards and Luminous by approximately 37% per tick, and Blazing Spear by approximately 42% per tick. Wow. Spear Wall. They increase the duration of minor protection granted to from 3 to 6 seconds, from 1.5 to 3 seconds. Oh, so that's nice. Thank you. Dawn's Wraith. Eclipse. Rework this ability in its morphs so it will no longer envelop your target in a sphere of darkness for 4 seconds, which harms them anytime they use direct damage attack. The first attack causes the sphere to hinder them, reducing their movement speed by 30% for 4 seconds. The second attack causes the sphere to entangle them, immobilizing them for 3 seconds. The third attack causes the sphere to smother them, stunning them for 3 seconds. This effect can only occur every second. Note the sphere can no longer be CC broken early, but can be cleansed. Total Dark. Renamed to Living Dark. You now envelop yourself in darkness for 4 seconds, which protects you. Anytime an enemy hits you with a direct damage attack, you immobilize them for 3 seconds and you are healed. The heal value was decreased by approximately 25% compared to the original value, but can now occur every half second rather than every 0.75 seconds. Okay. Unstable Core. Each time the sphere activates on the attacker, it will take damage. The damage is increased based on the stage of the sphere it currently is in. Ooh, I like that. I like the Unstable Core one. Solar Flare. Increase the damage of the ability and the Dark Flare morph by approximately 4%. Decrease the damage from Solar Barrage by 33% per tick. Sunfire. Reduce the cost of this ability to 2376. And increase the dot damage approximately by 17% per tick, and reduce the initial hit damage by approximately 17%. Okay. Restoring Light. Backlash. Purifying Light. Decrease the healing per tick by approximately 29%. I don't know if I like that, but okay. Cleansing Ritual. Increase the healing per tick of this ability and its morphs by approximately 95%. Increase the cost of this ability to 4860. Note these abilities continue to only tick every 2 seconds instead of every 1 second. This is due to the multifaceted operation power this ability boasts. Ritual of Retribution. This morph no longer grants additional modifiers to damage and healing, and instead deals damage for an identical coefficient of the heal. So Ritual of Retribution is the damage one, and the other one is a heal. That is cool. Thank you. Restoring Aura. Fixed an issue where the minor endurance and intellect from this ability and its morphs were not stacking with other sources. Rush Ceremony. Honor the Dead. Fixed an issue where this ability would cause animation stutters when attempting to cast the ability at a target who was using Mistform or its morphs. Okay. Warden. Animal Companions. Advanced Species. Reduce the damage increase to animal to 2% from 3%. I already expected that to happen. Feral Guardian. They fixed an issue where the Grizzly's attack could become desynced or stuck after using Crushing Swipe. This applies to all versions of the Grizzly. This will result in higher damage per second for the Grizzly, since it will be able to properly perform its next action more frequently. Swarm. Increase the cost of this ability and its morphs to 2700 from 2430, and increase the damage per tick by approximately 17%. Growing Swarm. This ability can infect any nearby enemy from patient 0 rather than only 6 enemies. Oh my god. Grain Balance. Nature's Grasp. Decrease the heal over time from this ability and its morphs by approximately 24% per tick. Bursting Vines. Increase the burst heal by approximately 13%. Winter's Embrace, Arctic Wind. Increase the heal over time from this ability and its morphs by approximately 66%. It will now start scaling the heal at 5% of your max health per tick rather than 3%. Oh my god. Icy Escape. Fixed an issue where the synergy was not being properly recognized, but conditional bonuses such as when activating the synergy. Okay. Impaling Charge. Increase the cost of this ability and its morphs to 45.36 from 35.10, and increase the damage per tick by approximately 9%. Winter's Revenge. They decrease the damage per tick by approximately 29%. Okay. I'm happy with these changes. But let's go ahead and move on to the more combat ability changes, and this is weapon stuff. So, two-handed, Berserker Strike. This ability and its morphs will now deal damage in a 5-meter radius in the initial hit. Successful hits. Note that the initial hit can be dodged since the initial attack is not an AoE. Onslaught. This morph no longer refunds ultimate cost if you gain a killing blow with it. Instead, it converts to a physical and spell resistance into physical and spell penetration and increases the duration for 8 seconds to a maximum of 16 seconds. It also no longer ranks up to 1.1%. What? So now it changes. It gives you their resistances in spell penetration, or physical and spell penetration. Onslaught's awesome. Cleave, Carve, reduce the damage over time from this by approximately 9%. Yeah, we all saw that coming. Critical Rush, increase the damage bonus, scaling to 50% from 40%. And Stampede, this morph no longer stares enemies hit, instead it now crushes the earth beneath you upon reaching the target area, causing area damage to happen every second for an 8-second duration. The ability is balanced around an AoE dot standards. That's awesome. That is awesome. I love Stampede now. Executioner. They increase the execute multiplier to 400% from 350%. Thank you. Heavy weapons. The Axe Bleed from this ability now ticks every second instead of every 2 seconds, and has its total damage increased by approximately 24%. Momentum. They reduce the duration of this ability in its morphs to 20 seconds from 30 seconds. They reduce the cost to 37.80. And the ability of this morph will no longer apply a heal over time, but instead grant major evasion for the duration of major brutality. So forward momentum, this morph now reduces the cost as the ability ranks up. And rally, increase the base heal from this ability by 100%, but reduce the maximum scaling bonus from 300 to 300% from 564. The heal now requires the full 20-second duration to reach the maximum bonus instead of reaching the maximum bonus at 70% of the way through. Okay, so this is cool. I like these changes. Uppercut. Reduce the cast time of this ability to 0.8 seconds from 1 second to help the reliability of being used in fast combat and melee range. Reduce the cost to 2,700. Increase the damage from this ability by approximately 9%. Dizzying Swing, this morph will no longer rank up in damage and stun duration. Instead, it will now just rank up the stun duration since that is the more focus. Okay. One-handed and shield. Now, these are some awesome changes coming here, guys. I'm super stoked for one-handed. So, defensive posture. If you guys don't know what this is. So, they reworked this ability in its morphs into a damage shield rather than a weird buff. This ability no longer passively reduces the cost or increases the amount of damage blocked while they are slotted, but instead it reduces the duration of the bonus from this ability to 6 seconds from 30 seconds. They increased the cost to 4,320. The damage shield scales off 30% of your max health, similar to damage shields like Bone Shield and Sun Shield. And the ability will continue to reflect once, but will now reflect any projectile that only rather than spell projectiles. Reflecting attack does not consume the shield. So, defensive stance. This ability no longer stuns the target if successfully reflect the attack. Instead, the morph reintroduces the passive, which now increases to the maximum of 10% block mitigation and cost reduction. Absorb Magicka. This morph is now called Absorb Missile because it can now absorb ranged attacks instead of just magical ones. They reduce the damage shield size to 30% from 50% and increase the heal granted from the absorb ranged attack by approximately 29% and will no longer remove the shield. So every time you get hit, you'll heal. So this is cool. I love this change. Fortress. They increase the cost reduction bonus from this passive to 15%, from 10%, 7 to 15%, to match other stamina weapon standards. Low slash. They reduce the damage dealt from this ability and heroic slash morphs by approximately 31%. These two abilities will also no longer snare targets. Heroic slash. Minor heroism granted from this morph now lasts 12 seconds, up from 9 seconds to better match the duration of other bonuses. Deep slash. This ability now hits all targets in a 6-meter radius of your target instead of only 2 in a 5-meter radius. The morph now deals the same damage to all targets and deals our AoE damage standard. The morph also retains the 30% snare. Deep slash has become awesome. I don't care. Heroic slash can go in the trash for all I care. Deep slash has just become wicked. Power bash. This ability is now considered a spammable attack, and adjusts have been made to properly place it in that category. This ability no longer stuns at base. Increase the damage dealt by all versions of this ability by approximately 94%. Reduce the cost to 2,700 from 3,780. Reverberating bash. This morph retains the stun with the max duration of 3 seconds, but no longer applies major defile to the target. The initial hit damage is halved and will deal the other half of the damage when the stun ends. If the target is CC immune, it will not gain the other half of damage. So, Reverberating bash was just nuked into the dirt, but it did gain something really cool. It gained really good spammable in CC. Power Slam. Rework the passive this ability grants. The passive granted is now called Reseminate or whatever sentiment, because you are now an angry person when you get hit. Reseminate activates after blocking an attack and grants 5 additional damage to your next Power Slam attack. The bonus can stack up to 10 times, lasting 5 seconds, but you can only have 1 stack every 250 milliseconds to match the cooldown of the block's cost cadence. Puncture. Reduce the damage dealt from this ability and its morphs approximately by 37%, but reduce the cost to 1350 from 1701. Increase the duration of major fracture to 15% from 12 seconds to match the taunt duration. And Ransack. This morph no longer grants minor ward, and it just did minor ward, it didn't do resolve, and instead grants minor protection for 15 seconds. That means 8% damage reduction. This is going to be awesome. Pierce Armor. Major breach from this morph now also lasts 15 seconds. Shield Charge. Shield Assault. Increase the shield sides from this ability by 25%. Evasion. Reduce the maximum bonus from the stun duration of 50% from 88. The max stun will now last 6 seconds, down from 7.52 seconds. Dual Wield. Blade Cloak. This ability has been shifted into a AoE dot category, then focusing on being a buff first. They decrease the duration to 8 seconds from 15 seconds, reduce the cost to 3024 from 3510, and decrease the damage per tick by approximately 5%, but increase the frequency to 2 seconds from 3 seconds. Quick Cloak. On top of granting major expedition for 4 seconds, this morph now also extends the duration to 10 seconds from 8 seconds, which ranks up to 12. Deadly Cloak. This morph no longer deals increased damage per tick, but instead deals damage every second. That's a cool change. Heavy Attack. Fixed an issue where you could remain in stealth or invisibility after landing a dual-wield heavy attack. That's good. Hidden Blade. Rework this ability from a range spammable into a utility skill. They increase the cost to 2780 from 2970, reduce the range to 22 meters, reduce the damage by approximately 25%, and this ability will now interrupt the target if they were casting an attack. This ability will no longer apply major brutality instantly. Instead, enemies hit will be marked, and light and heavy attacks to the target while dual wielding will grant major brutality for 30 seconds. Shrouded Daggers, this ability no longer deals increased damage per bounce, but can interrupt any target hit. This ability can now now only marks the initial target instead of any enemy hit with bounces. Each hit deals our AoE damage standard. Flying Blade, this morph allows you to reactivate the ability free of cost on a marked target, which causes you to jump to the target and gain major brutality for 30 seconds. This ability is off the global cooldown as well. Oh my god. Lacerate. Increase the size of this ability in Ren to 8 by 8 meters from 8 by 7. Fixed an issue where the heal from this ability, from all of these abilities critically strike. Thrive in Chaos. They reduce the base damage done from this target to 3%, but 5%. And the morph no longer increases damage on the dot, but instead increases the damage done per target hit by 1%. This morph converts the attack into a conal attack and covers a much larger area. And then Twin Blade and Blunt. They fixed the bleed, the axe bleed from this passive now ticks every second instead of every 2 seconds, and they increase the total damage by approximately 24%. Twin Slashes increase the damage over time from this ability and its morphs by approximately 37%. Bow, Poison Arrow, increase the cost to 2,700 from 2,430 on all morphs. Decrease the initial hit damage by approximately 17%. Increase the damage over time on all morphs by approximately 78%. Venom Arrow, this ability now ranks up on in cost reduction rather than 1.1% damage. And then Poison Injection, reduce the total execute modifier to 100% from 260. Rapid Fire, increase the channeled damage from this ability and Toxic Barrage by approximately 11% and reduce the time to 4 seconds from 4.1. Toxic Barrage, they remove the delay and reduce damage of the dot by approximately 6%, so it properly deals half the damage of the channeled attack. And Ballista, reduced the duration of the turret to 5 seconds and fixed an issue where it was double dipping in rank progression. This will result in a minor damage decrease. Scattershot. This ability is now part of a utility category with the below changes affects all 3 versions of the ability. Increase the cost to 3,780, reduce the damage by approximately 10%, and reduce the range to 22 meters. They increase the knockback to 8 meters. Magnum Shot. This morph no longer knocks the caster back, but instead deals 20% more damage than the other morph, and reduces the cost to 3,510. Draining Shot. The heal from this ability will now trigger upon dealing damage rather than when the target is knocked back. Also decrease the heal by approximately 20%. Snipe, they increase the damage by approximately 9% for this ability and its morphs. Volley, this ability and its morphs now deal damage every second rather than every half second. They increase the damage per tick by approximately 11%. This will result in an overall damage loss. Reduce the base cost to 2,808 from 3,510, and the range of this morph is now 28 meters. Arrow Barrage, this morph no longer extends the duration, but increases the damage per tick by approximately 20%. And Endless Hail, this morph no longer grants cost reduction, but now lasts 9 seconds and ranks to 12 seconds at rank 4, then gaining rather than gaining a 1.1% damage per rank. Not tank. Destruction Staves. Destructive Touch. Redesign this ability in this morphs to function as a dot rather than a utility skill. Reduce the base cost to 2,700 from 4,050. Reduce the initial hit by approximately 17%, but increase the dot by approximately 167% per tick. This ability no longer grants additional bonus depending on the staff you are using. This ability now gains a 1.1% damage per rank for the entire ability. Reduce the duration, or reduce the range to 15 meters to 17 meters. And Destructive Reach, this morph retains the unique functionality for each elemental staff type you choose, but no longer deals damage over time. Flame Clinch knocks the target back and stuns for the duration. Frost Clinch immobilizes the target. Shock converts the attack to an AoE explosion and deals our AoE damage standard. Destructive Reach, this morph now increases to 28 meters and reduces the cost to 2,430 at rank 4. Damn. Force Shock. Increase the damage of this ability in this force by approximately 11%, and increase the chance to apply elemental status effects to 10% per hit from 3%, since each is a direct damage attack. Crushing Shock. This ability no longer ranks up in damage, but instead decreases the cost of the cooldown, or decreases in cost down to 2430. And Force Pulse, this morph no longer ranks up in damage on the initial hit, but instead ranks up the cleave damage it deals. Also increases the damage of cleave attack by approximately 172%. Crazy. Pulsar. Reduce the duration of minor mangle. This ability applies to 7 seconds from 30 seconds, which ranks up to 10 seconds. This morph now also increases the chance of applying the elemental status effect to 15% from 5. Wall of Elements. Increase the duration of this ability to 8 seconds from 6. And it's morph, so it has 8 and 6. And the abilities will now rank up in damage per rank rather than cost reduction. So the decreased cost is 30,024 from 3510. The decrease the damage per tick by approximately 33%. Elemental Blockade. Increase the duration of this morph to 9 seconds from 8 seconds, which ranks up to 12 seconds. It also no longer reduces in cost per rank. Unstable. A Wall of Elements. This morph no longer reduces the cost per rank, but increases the explosion damage. Increase the damage of the explosion by approximately 94%, and fixed an issue where the dot tick was being consumed by the explosion. Restoration Staff. Blessing of Protection. Reduce the cost of this ability in its morphs to 3510 from 3780. Increase the healing of all abilities by approximately 10%. Blessing of Restoration. They increase the healing of this ability by approximately 3% since it was missing the rank up progression on the previous morph. This ability now lasts 16 seconds instead of 15. And Combat Prayer, this ability no longer ranks up 1.1% healing efficiency, but instead reduces the cost as it ranks up. This ability's Minor Berserk will no longer hit pets, since they already gain that from the owner. Force Siphon, this ability and its morphs no longer have a cast time or a cost, since they are purely debuff skills, such as Weakness Element. The duration of this ability now begins at 18 seconds and ranks up to 24, and both morphs will rank to 30 seconds in total. They fixed an issue where these abilities would aggro your target. Quick Siphon. Since this is a no cast time, this ability gains a new morph effect, triggering the minor lifesteal debuff. Will also grant the activator Minor Expedition for 4 seconds. Grand Healing. Converted this ability to a true AoE hot rather than a hybrid spammable hybrid hot. Increase the duration from 3 seconds to 8 seconds, but you may only have one active at a time. Reduce the healing per tick by approximately 44%. Reduce the cost to 2808. Healing Springs. This now grants 30 magicka every time it heals an ally, rather than 330 up to 3. This will result in a higher return if you hit all six targets in the for the full duration, but will require more coordination to obtain. Illustrious Healing. This ability continues to increase the duration. The new duration is 9 seconds, which ranks up to 12 seconds. Okay. That's a big change. Regeneration. Increase the healing per tick by approximately 98%, but reduce the duration to 10 seconds. It now only hits one ally per cast. Increased the cost to 2,700 from 21. Rapid Regeneration. This morph now doubles the frequency, but halves the duration. And Mutagen increases the burst heal values and the ability by approximately 93%. Steadfast Ward. Increase the base shield size by approximately 14%, but reduce the bonus scaling from 100 to 100% from 300% to better align with other abilities, and reduce the polarizing effectiveness it has. Healing Ward. This morph no longer heals you after the shield ends, because the shield hardly remains to do that. The morph now heals you once every second for 25% of the remaining shield size to ensure you gain effectiveness out of it. Cool. Light Armor. Annulment. Reduce the shield size of this ability in its morphs by approximately 9%. Harness Magicka. This morph no longer returns 3% of the max Magicka when absorbing spells attacks. Instead, it restores 5% of the ability's cost whenever it absorbs any damage. Note, this value continues to increase per piece of light armor worn and can now still only occur 3 times per cast. Okay. Medium armor. Evasion. Reduce the cost of this ability to 3212 from 3672. Also added a new function if you are hit with an area of attack with this ability active. You gain major expedition for 2 seconds. So each piece of medium armor now increases the duration of major evasion for 2 seconds, up from 1 second. Elude also increases the duration of major expedition by only 1 second per piece of medium armor. Shuffle. Increase the snare and immobilization immunity granted from this piece of armor worn to 1 second from 0.5 seconds. Cool. Immovable. Reworked this ability in its morphs and shifted the names around to slightly more appropriate. The base ability is now called Unstoppable. Reduces the cost to 3780 from 4590, which is a 15% cost reduction, taking it 3213. Okay, whatever. Increases the duration of the CC immunity granted to 6 seconds. While the CC immunity persists, you are now 65% reduced movement speed. You cannot be stopped, but the power comes at a great cost. Immovable Brute. Rename this ability to Unstoppable Brute. It no longer passively reduces the cost of CC break while slotted, but instead reduces the cost of CC breaking while the Major Ward and Major Resolve are active. Increases the cost reduction per piece of armor to 5% from 4%, and the morph also gains reduction as it ranks up. Wow. Unstoppable. Renamed to Immovable. Okay. This morph no longer increases the duration of the ability, but instead, while the snare persists, it increases the amount of damage you can block by 5% per piece of heavy armor worn, but also increases the snare potency to 5%. If you are in 7 pieces of heavy armor, you will truly be immovable, unless elite difficulty enemies hit you with a special move that they don't care if you think you are movable. Okay, that's actually kind of cool. I like that. It increases the block cost. World skills. Soul Magic. Soul Strike. Alright, Soul Magic, Soul Strike. Increase the damage per tick from this ability in its morphs by approximately 22%, but increased the time it takes to deal its damage to 5 seconds from 2.9 to help reduce the bursty nature of the ultimate. This means the CC immunity granted from activating this ability lasts 5 seconds instead of 2.9. Increase the reveal on this ability to 3 seconds from 2 seconds, and increase the base cost to 175 up from 100. Shatter Soul. This morph's explosion no longer requires the target to die in order to occur. Instead, when the channel is completed, it ends early. It will detonate. Reduce the damage of the explosion by approximately 37%. Fixed an issue where the explosion was not applying the reveal effect on the targets hit as the tooltip intended. Soul Trap. This ability in its has been restructured to fit into a single target dot standards. Since the ability is the first ability you have access to, it will dynamically scale with your offensive stats, with some extra detection abilities. If your weapon damage is higher, it will deal physical damage. If your spell damage is higher, it will deal magic damage. They increase the damage per tick by approximately 161%. They remove the 2-second delay from this ability, and they fix the visual errors from these abilities. Consuming Trap. This will now restore 20% of your max health, magic, and stamina up from 10 when the target when a target affected dies. The tooltip will state the actual return and help to help your visualize the weight of its pure power. Wow, that is awesome. Vampire, Bat Swarm. Reduce the cost to 250 from 275. Increase the duration of this ability to 7 seconds. Increase the damage dealt by approximately 20% per tick. Devouring Swarm, the base cost of this is 200 from 250. The heal from this ability has been brought into standards, but which will result in no real set percentage changes. And power due to the previous version having several issues with scaling. The weapon damage scaling of this ability was approximately 800% weaker than the spell damage scaling, while the stamina scaling was 1500% weaker than the magicka scaling. The heal will now scale for half of the damage base coefficient. Note, this does not mean the heal is tethered to half the damage dealt. Okay. They increased the cost from this to 250 to 250. Reduce the damage of Clouding Swarms activate, materialize by approximately 6% per hit. Cloud Swarms damage over time will no longer rank up in damage since Materialize already did. Note that due to the increase in duration of the base ability, Materialize will also be able to activate 2 additional times. Jesus. Alright. Drain Essence. Remove 1 second delay on this ability and its morphs before it deals damage. The channel from this ability can no longer be dodged. They reduce the damage per tick by approximately 11%, but additional tick, it now deals results in an increase of damage by approximately 89%. This ability and its morphs now heal for 15% of your missing health per tick, down from 20 to retain the 60% of the missing health over 3 seconds. Accelerating Drain, increase the frequency of damage and healing this ability deals, resulting in 1 extra tick of extra damage and healing. Mistform, they reduce the cost of this ability from 5130 to from 5940. This ability now lasts 4 seconds at base. The ability now ranks up in cost reduction, making it 4,860 at rank 4. Elusive Mist fixed an issue where the major expedition from this ability would persist even after casting the channeled effect. And Baleful Mist, this no longer ranks up in the cost, but instead gains 1.1% damage per rank and increase the frequency of damage to 0.5 seconds from 1 second, but increase the damage of the dot by approximately 30%. This is actually really good. I like these vampire changes, and I like all the changes they made so far. Werewolf. So we got to see the developer's notes here. Many werewolf skills have been adjusted in terms of damage, cost, and healing to ensure that they meet the intended goal of the werewolf experience. A fast-paced threat that is terrifying foe on the battlefield. Activating werewolf abilities should feel distinct in nature from other abilities in terms of their consequences. They should feel more powerful, but more costly. With our ongoing ability standard audit, we've taken werewolf and set their abilities to be 25% more per cast, meaning when compared to similar ability categories, the werewolf version deals 25% more damage and costs 25% more. Note that this value will subject to change. We're also aware that werewolf abilities feeling bare in nature, such as pounce, and are currently investigating some additional variations to help spice up the combat approach. So, Hircine's Bounty. Increase the cost of this ability and swarms by approximately 25%. Reduce the healing to 37.5 of your max health from 45 of your max health, which is 25% stronger than the standard 30%. Hircine's Rage. Increase the duration of the major brutality to 30 seconds from 20 seconds. And Hircine's Fortitude. The morph of this ability is 25% stronger in heal potency compared to the base, which will result in approximately a 16% reduction in healing compared to previous value. Infectious Claw. Increase the cost of this ability to 3442 from 3240. Increase the damage of the initial hit by 25%. Reduce the damage over time by approximately 11% per tick. Piercing Howl. They reduce the cost of this ability to 2869 from 3510 and reduce the damage dealt by approximately 14%. Howl of Agony. This morph no longer ranks up by 1% in damage, but instead increases the damage dealt on a feared target by 33%. Wow. Pounce. Decrease the cost of this ability to 4116 from 4050. And Brutal Pounce, the AoE damage dealt from this morph now deals the same damage as the initial hit. Okay. Increase the cost of this ability on Roar to 4304 from 4163. Reduce the radius to 6 meters from 8 meters. Increase the duration of fear to 4 seconds from 3.3 at rank 4. All morphs now last 4 seconds in total duration. Deafening Roar, this ability now properly applies Major Fracture to up to 6 enemies, regardless if they were feared or not. Ferocious Roar, this ability now ranks up in cost reduction rather than fear duration. Okay. Werewolf Transformations. Reduce the damage dealt by light and heavy attacks of this ability and its morphs by approximately 17%. Increase the damage of light attacks, or increase the range of light attacks to 7 meters from 5 meters, and heavy attacks to 10 meters from 7 meters. This was done to help prevent the same instance of standard forms. Snare from character size increase was not applying the range to your abilities, causing the attacks to appear as if they lost range. The ability of the Pack Leader morph no longer applies bleed to enemies hit with light attacks or deals area damage with heavy attacks. The Dire Wolves can no longer be targeted or die. Reduce the damage of the Dire Wolves' Gnash attack by approximately 70% and decrease the frequency of their attacks speed to 2 seconds from 1 second. Gnash now applies major or minor maim to enemies hit for 4 seconds, reducing their damage. Reduce the damage of Lunge attack by approximately 60%. Lunge will now cast every 10 seconds rather than have a 25% chance every 3 seconds to cast. Lunge will now snare enemies hit for 30% for 4 seconds, and Dire Wolves now return to your side if you travel far enough from them, since they they are lost and confused without their leader of the pack. Werewolf Berserker. Increase the damage of the bleed from your light attacks by 25%. Alright. Developer notes. The Werewolf morphs were initially designed to have Pack Leader emphasized on utility, while Berserker was meant to be an offensive and raw damage choice. Due to the Direwolf's damage and attack speed, Berserker was constantly eclipsed, and Pack Leader wasn't provided much utility than causing target compilations for enemies. Now Pack Leader allows your doggos to enfeeble your foes, while Berserker lets you rip and fear. Right, new changes to Fighters Guild abilities, guys. They fixed an issue where Balrog and hulking werewolves were not being considered werewolves for the Fighters Guild conditional bonuses. Circle of Protection. This is awesome. They reduced the cost of its morphs to 3,902. From 7,987. They fixed an issue where this ability and its morphs were not would not gain minor protection from the ability, and the minor endurance active prior to entering the area. Now, Turn Undead. This morph is now called Turn Evil and fears all enemies in the area upon cast instead of rather than only undead. Ring of Preservation. This morph no longer reduces the cost to dodge roll while in the area of affected. It heals up to 6 friendly targets, yourself included, in the area every half second. The heal is based on an AoE hot standards. Okay, I'm getting a little excited here. You want to know why this is great? This is a stamina heal over time. We needed this, and it's awesome. Dawnbreaker. This ability and its morphs will now all have minor cast time to match their animation of slamming down, and the glorious Dawnbreaker canceling the ultimate will now consume resources. And this cannot be bashed interrupted from allies. They increase the damage of the dot by 1.1% per rank. The ability in its morphs no longer has a 6-person target cap, since the total area is smaller than the other ultimates, such as Dragon Leap and Permafrost. Flawless Dawnbreaker. This morph no longer passively increases your weapon damage by 5% while slotted. It grants you 300 weapon damage for 14 seconds, which ranks up to 20 seconds at rank 4. This morph also no longer increases the damage by 1.1% per rank. Dawnbreaker Smiting. This morph will now properly gain a 20% damage increase, which will result in a 1% damage loss. Expert Hunter. Evil Hunter. Fixed an issue where this ability costs more than its original form. The morph no longer has a 25% reduced stamina cost to Fighters Guild abilities. Instead, it grants a 25% damage dealt with non-fighter abilities, guild abilities. So if you have Fighter Evil Hunter slotted, you gain 25% more damage dealt with non-fighters guild abilities. Camouflage Hunter. This ability no longer costs more than the base form and no longer grants minor berserk from successfully sneak attacks. It now grants minor berserk from dealing critical damage from an enemy's flank. Decrease the duration of the minor berserk to 5 seconds from 10 seconds at rank 4. Silver Bolts. This ability has been brought into our spammable category and will be balanced as such. They increase the damage dealt by approximately 12.5%. They reduce the cost to 2,700. The ability no longer snares enemies hit. Spin them crossbows. Silver Shards Morph. This ability now hits all nearby enemies to your original target instead of having a cap. The AoE damage dealt is now 25% weaker than the initial hit instead of 50%, and the AoE damage now ranks up 1% strength per rank. Silver Bolts decrease the damage of this ability by approximately 25%, increase the cost to 2780, reduce the snare potency to 30% from 40%, and these changes will now allow the ability to perform much closer to other gap closers and creator abilities. Trap Beast. Increase the duration of the damage over time from this ability, and lightweight Trap Beast morphs to 10 seconds from 6 seconds. The minor force will now properly line up with the duration rather than being 2 seconds longer, reducing the damage per tick by approximately 6% and reduce the duration of Immobilize on all morphs to 2 seconds. They also reduce the base cost to 3240 from 3870. Lightweight Beast Trap. This morph no longer ranks up in damage of the dot, but instead reduces the cost as it ranks up. And Rearming Trap Beast Morph, Rearming Trap Beasts, whatever morph, renamed it to Barb Trap. This morph no longer places a new trap in the area after the original duration ends, but instead increases the duration of the dot applied up to 18 seconds at rank 4. The damage per tick has been increased by approximately 33% since it is now lower than the base morph. Mage's Guild. Lots of good changes here. Entropy. Redesign this ability in its morphs to operate as a dot rather than a strange hot dot buff hybrid previously was. Increase the cost of the ability to 2970 from 1620 at base. Entropy and Disintegrate will no longer heal over time. Decrease the damage of all morphs by approximately 220%. Decrease the duration to 10 seconds from 12 seconds. Major Sorcery remains at 20 seconds and fixed an issue where Major Sorcery was not increasing the duration of Everlasting Mage passive. Structured Entropy. This morph no longer grants max health while slotted. Instead, it now heals every 2 seconds for 10 seconds. And Degeneration. This morph no longer has a 15% chance to heal you when you deal a light or heavy attack. Instead, it returns 100 magicka when dealing light and heavy attack damage to the target with a dot persists. While the dot persists, also reduces the cost of your abilities. Ability of this rank down to 2700. I really like this change, even though Structured Entropy got a massive hit with that 8% max health loss. Everything else is great on it. Equilibrium, balance. The Major Ward, Major Resolve will now begin their duration at 22 seconds instead of 20 seconds, and rank up with 2-point commitment to Everlasting Magic. The duration will now be a glorious 30 seconds rather than 27.6. Spell Symmetry. Increase the cost reduction granted from this ability to 33% from 28% rank 4. Rune of Fire. Increase the damage of this ability and its morphs by 25% for the initial hit and reduce the base cost to 3240. Scaling or Scalding Rune. Increase the damage over time of this morph by approximately 115% per tick. And Volcanic Rune. This morph no longer increases the duration of the stun of this ability it ranks up, but instead reduces the cost of the ability as it ranks up. Meteor. Remove the 6-person target cap of this ability since it covers a smaller area than the standard AoE ultimates. Reduce the damage over time from this ability by approximately 13% per tick, but increase the duration so it will now end up on a beautiful whole number when you have 2 points of Everlasting Magic. They fixed an issue where this ability and its morphs would fail to deal damage on a character if your character died after casting it. Ice Comet, this morph will no longer rank up snare duration of the target's hit by the initial hit, but instead will increase the total damage by 1.1% per rank. The 10% damage increase of this ability will now also applies to the dot as well. Psijic Order, Meditate, and this is the only really thing that changed in the Psijic Order. Meditate, slightly reduce the healing and resource return from this ability and its morphs to land on whole numbers. Introspection, increase the healing of this ability by approximately 5%. Undaunted, Blood Altar. This ability and its morphs no longer have a cast time and now cost health rather than magicka. Overflowing Altar. This ability no longer attempts to and fails to rank up on the healing the synergy provides, but instead reduces its cost as it ranks up. Blood Feast and Blood Funnel. These synergies will now properly use their activator's highest critical strike chance rather than using the spell critical. Blood Feast will now heal 65% of the activator's max health at all ranks. Bone Shield, increase the cost of 4320 from 3780, but applied a 15% stamina cost reduction in missing, which will take the cost to 3672. Bone Shield will now properly rank 1.1% in shield size per rank, and Spike Bone Shield, this ability's damage return can no longer be with other damage return procs. It will no longer remove the attacker from sneak attacks before finishing the attack. Increase the damage return to 60% from 33%, but it better in line with other morphs. Bone Surge. This ability will now rank up by 1.1% in shield size rather than reducing its cost. Bone Wall and Spinal Surge. These synergies now affect up to 6 allies, up from 4. That reduce the size of the shields to 30% of the Synergizer's maximum health from 50. Inner Fire, reduce the cost of this ability and its morph to 2700 and increase the chance of applying a synergy to 50%. Inner Beast, this morph now also causes the target to take 5% more damage while the taunt persists, and it added the stamina cost reduction to this morph, taking the cost to 2295. Inner Fire, this morph now guarantees the synergy instead of increasing the chance. Necrotic Orb, reduce the base cost of this ability to 3780 from 4590. Reduce the damage per tick of this ability and its Mystic Orb morph approximately by 13%, and can now deal damage every half second instead of every second. You can now only have one active orb at a time. Thank you. They decreased the speed to 2 meters per second from 3 meters per second to help deal damage and heal targets more reliably as the orb passes through. Healing Orbs reduce the heal per tick of this ability by approximately 13% and fixed an issue where allies affected by the heal from this ability were unable to take damage from necrotic or mystic orbs from other players. Thank you for fixing Necrotic Orb. Radiate. The synergy now has a 1 second delay on activation and reduces the damage of the dot by approximately 11%. Spawn Broodlings. Reduce the initial hit of this ability and other versions of the morph by approximately 21%. The synergies now summon 1 spider for 10 seconds rather than 2 spiders for 15 seconds, which will significantly reduce the damage dealt. Black Widows. Increase the damage of the poison applied by spiders by approximately 66% to offset some of the damage loss of this ability. Note the synergy will still see a large efficiency loss. Tangling Webs reduce the cost of this ability and its force by approximately 15% since they were missing the standard. These abilities now deal an initial hit on damage when they land at the target location, resulting in approximately a 75% damage increase for the caster, and fixed an issue where parts of the ability would fail if the caster was silenced. Right, Alliance War changes. Caltrops reduce the cost to 2984 from 3510. They increase the snare potency to 50%. Thank you. Reduce the damage per tick by approximately 60% and decrease the duration to 10 seconds from 12. The changes apply to all morphs. Caltrops now ranks to up in 1.1% damage rather than reducing its cost. Anti-Cavalry decrease the duration to 12 seconds, which ranks up to a maximum of 15 seconds. It also no longer damages, it has no longer increased in damage per rank. Razor Caltrop, this ability no longer deals damage on initial hit, but instead applies major fracture to enemies hit by the dot up to 4 seconds at rank 4. Yes! That's going to make things a lot easier for people. Magic Detonation. Reduce the cast time of this ability and detonation morph to 1 second from 1.5 seconds. Increase the damage of all morphs by approximately 7% to ensure the deal AoE damage standard. Reduce the base cost of all morphs by 3510 from 4050. Remove the maximum limit, the target scaling of these abilities, so that they may actually combat large groups of enemies for their intended design. Rapid Maneuvers. Reduce the cost of this ability to 6,885 for 15% cost reduction standard. The ability and its morphs will no longer remove themselves if they take action such as healing and damage. Reduce the duration of the major expedition granted to 8 seconds from 30 seconds at rank 4. Note, it will continue to grant major gallop for 30 seconds. Retreating Maneuver. This ability no longer ranks up in duration. And Charging Maneuver Morph. This morph no longer grants minor expedition after the gallop ends as reapplied. Instead, it grants minor expedition bonus alongside the major expedition bonus. This ability no longer ranks up in duration, but instead reduces the cost. Fixed an issue where minor expedition was ignoring range requirements and applying to allies in lands far, far away. Vigor. Adhere this ability to a single target hot standard. This should have been done a long time ago. I'm sorry. Vigor and Resolving Vigor now only heal the caster. Increase the duration to 10 seconds from 5 seconds, but decrease the tick frequency to 2 seconds from 1 second. They increase the healing per tick by approximately 85% and reduce the cost to $22.95. Resolving Vigor, the morph doubles the frequency but halves the duration. So it drops to 5 seconds in healing, but gets greater healing done. Echoing Vigor, this morph reintroduces the area of effect healing capability, healing up to 6 allies in a 15-meter radius. Thank you. Sturdy Horn. So Warhorn's getting adjustments too. Sturdy Horn, this ability no longer extends the duration of the bonus or provides minor ward and minor revolve. It now grants 15% worth of critical resistance to targets affected to operate as a counter to aggressive Warhorn. This is awesome for PvP. Emperor, you can no longer generate ultimate while you are in this transformation, such as Bone Goliath or Werewolf, while you are Emperor. Support changes. Barrier. This ability and its morphs will now affect up to 12 group members instead of 6. Thank you. This is going to be awesome for trials. Reduce the heal per tick on Reviving Barrier by approximately 11%. Reduce the duration to 15 seconds from 30 seconds, but instead, increase the frequency per tick to 1 second from 1.5, and added a 1 second delay to the first heal tick. Replenishing Barrier. The magicka restored from this ability's conditional requirement now restores a flat amount of magicka rather than a percentage of your max magicka, and the restore is now 1,000 at rank 4. So to restore 1,000 magicka every time one of these barriers is removed from an ally. It reduced the amount of ultimate restored per shield dissolve to 4 instead of 6. Note, this ability can now affect more targets. The total restore of both the magic and ultimate can proportionally be higher. Guard, reduced the base cost to $36.72 since they were missing 15% stamina cost reduction standard. Purge. This ability and its morphs no longer reduce duration of incoming negative effects. Increase the amount of negative effects instantly removed to 3 from 2, and this ability now ranks up in cost reduction, leading up leading to a base cost of 7830 at rank 4. Efficient Purge, this ability now costs 5400 rather than 5100, and Cleanse, this morph no longer heals for 15% of the target's health if a negative effect was removed, but instead heals 7 to 10% of their max health per negative effect removed. Revealing Flare adjusted this ability to behave more closely to other reveals such as Mage Light and Expert Hunter. The Flare now lingers in the area where cast for 5 seconds rather than being instantaneous, increases the cost to 5400, which ranks down to 5130. Lingering Flare, this ability now lasts 7 seconds, down from 8, and ranks up to a duration of 10. Scorching Flare remains also rename this to Blinding Flare. This ability no longer damages enemies revealed, but now stuns revealed enemies for 2 seconds, which ranks up to 4 seconds at rank 4. Siege Shield, this ability and its morphs now affect 12 allies instead of only 6. Reduce the base cost of this ability to 8,100. Propelling Shield, reduce the cost to 7830. And Siege Shield, the protection from the shield will now apply to all friendly siege weaponry introduced, or including your own rather than only your allies' sieges. Fixed an issue where the damage shield, or the damage mitigation from siege attacks on players was applying, Itemization set changes. One of the best changes is this. Bloody Mara. Reduce the max health granted by approximately 14% and the max magicka granted approximately 13% for this consumable. This is done to retain the fact that drinks are meant to be slightly weaker than their food counterparts due to the special item sets and bonuses they key off, that key them off, whatever. Glyph of Bashing. This enchantment now grants weapon and spell damage to your bash instead of only weapon damage. Also increases the potency of your enchantments by approximately 21%. Item sets. And Affliction. Fixed an issue where the Befouled passive did not apply Defile on this set. Briarheart. This set will now place appropriate buff icon on your effects bar and character sheet. Defensive Position and Perfected Defensive Position. Reduce the amount of magicka restored if you failed to reflect or absorb a projectile with defensive posture and its morphs by 20%. Ebon Armory. Reduce the max health bonus of the set to 1,000 from 1,800 or 1,118. Eternal Hunt. Fixed an issue where weapon swapping would remove the ruin. False God. Fixed an issue where magicka returned from the set would fail if you were also wearing the perfected version. Himjaw's Retribution. The major berserk granted from the set now lasts 5 seconds, up from 3 seconds, but only works on enemies who are actively in combat with. Ice Furnace. This item set now grants spell damage rather than weapon damage for the 4-piece bonus. Thank you. Krogs. The area of effect of this ability will now properly update when fighting dragons. Kind's Kiss. They fixed an issue where the heal from this set could critically strike. Merciless Charge. Increase the amount of ticks the weapon grants by 1, resulting in the approximate of 20% damage increase. This effect can trigger off each tick of Stampede's area of effect. Pillar of Nirn. Increase the range or the damage of the bleed by 25%, resulting in a 20% damage total damage increase of the entire set. Plague Doctor. Reduce the max health to 3,000 from 4,000 since this set has no additional requirements to justify the increase of stat density. That's a good change. I'm happy with that. Quick Serpent. Fixed an issue where the stamina return from this item from this set would fail if you were wearing Vicious Serpent. Roar of Alkosh. The area of effect from this ability will now properly update when fighting dragons. Savage Werewolf. This set now ticks every second for 4 seconds instead of 2 seconds for 6 seconds. This will result in one additional damage tick. Sentinel of Ramagazoom's, whatever. The Doom respawn from this set will now always spawn at the target who proc the summon rather than only on the caster. The spider will now is also now immobile and will no longer move once it has begun channeling its heal ability. Shadow of the Red Mountain. Fixed an issue in this set. Gain by killing a blow. It will now grab a new target in the area. Stinging Slashes, they increase the damage to 1600 per tick from 1350. Thunderous Volley, increase the damage bonus of this set by nearly double the original value, since Volley and its morphs now only tick every second instead of every half second. The values are slightly less than double, since they are now prettier numbers. So cute. Torix Pack. This item set no longer increases the damage of Oblivion damage enchants. It still, however, decreases their cooldown. Twin Slashes. Increase the damage over time from this item set by approximately 67%, but the dot now happens every 10 seconds instead of every 8. Veladrith. This item set can no longer hit the same monster multiple times. Warrior's Fury. This set now procs off taking damage rather than only critical damage. Reduce the duration of the buff to 5 seconds from 6 seconds. The stacking bonus can now only occur once every half second, and they reduce the total number of stacks to 25 from 20 to 25. Yeah. Resulting in 150 weapon damage reduction upon reaching 20 stacks. The bonus can no longer refresh, but will double in duration. Weird's Tree Blessing. Fixed an issue where this set would proc on and go on cooldown after attempting to purge an unpurgeable negative effect. Base game changes. So PvP, Alliance War, and PvP. In an effort to decrease the amount of times you end up stuck in combat, in Cyrodiil, all ranged guards have undergone sweeping changes to their awareness and aggro behavior. Note, pure melee guards are not affected by the change, nor are the rules of engagement for pure player versus player and combat rules regarding group mates. Cyrodiil mage guards will now attempt to cast area-based abilities when initializing combat instead of their lightning strike. Battlegrounds. Aldkark now has an alternate layout for Capture the Flag, Chaos Ball, and Deathmatch game modes. While in your starting location, your character will receive a damage boost that lasts for a few moments after jumping out of the respawn location. Isterus Outpost now has an alternate layout for Chaos Ball and Deathmatch game modes. Mounting is disabled in the alternate layout. While in the lower portion of any starting location, this version, your healing received is cut by 50%. Volendrung. Decrease the damage per hit from Volendrung's Sundering Sweep ability to 10,000 damage per hit from 12,000 damage per hit. And Volendrung now has a proper icon message in its Death Recap UI. Art and animation. Animation using an outfit station or a crafting station while crouched will now end your crouch. Fixtures adjusted the textures on several props and structures to improve visual quality. Terrain made several texture adjustments to caves and tunnels to improve their overall visual quality. Improve the collision on various rocks and waterfalls. Visual effects. The glow from equipment poisons or equipped poisons will no longer persist on weapons when they are not sheathed. Combat and gameplay. Monsters. Fixed an issue where monsters would become visual desync between the server and the client. This fixes a whole range of issues. Monsters would be unable to be looted after death if they died while moving, and so on and so forth. Feared monsters will no longer face the current target and will instead stand still while they are feared. And feared monsters will now animate on their duration on the effect. So, cool. Monster abilities. Gargoyles. Quake is now centered in front of the monster and is more clearly telegraphed. Giant, Obliterate, and Shatter can now be cast while silent. Ice Wrath. This fixed an issue where Shardburst visually appeared poorly if it failed to find a path to a character. And Nyxhound's Fabricant Bolt can now be cast while moving, and Nullifier fixed an issue where some nullifiers would negate, could not cast negate magic. May Stendar have mercy on your spells. This is gonna suck. Ogrims fixed an issue where the Ogrim could become stuck beating his chest between its attacks. Yes, they did. Boulders tossed in Boulder Toss no longer teleport to their targets. Reef Adders now require line of sight to use their attacks. And Vanquishers. Retaliation can no longer be cast while the Vanquisher is rooted. Crafting and economy changes. The apple bobbing mementos fragments are now individual collectibles, which can be obtained by consuming their individual items. Using the fragments from the collections menu will now grant you the full memento. In light of the tooltips for apple bobbing memento fragments have been adjusted. An epic and legendary Witches Festival recipe now requires confirmation if you try to destroy them. You're a monster. You monster. The following items can now be marked as currency on their tooltips. Hefty Telvar crates, light Telvar satchels, medium Telvar sacks, scamps Telvar sacks, and transmutation geodes and uncracked transmutation geodes. Adjusted the price to apply first blade and ebony blade to an outfit system. Fixed an issue where consuming the heroism from one of your transmute poisons to have a longer cooldown than it should. Remove the exestrous stroke in the text of a mail for whatever and demand the best. I don't get it. I'm just going to skip that. Dungeon group content. Bandage cells 2. You can no longer target the invisible dictator at the end of the dungeon. Blessed Crucible fixed an exploit that made it easier to defeat the Troll King. Dark Shade Caverns. The Hive Lord's Quama Scribes will no longer persist should your group perish. Reduce the range in which the Sentinel of Rikonozuma will start the encounter. I'm not going to go over a lot of this stuff after this, because a lot of it's just fixes and bug things. I will have a link in the description for the rest of this stuff for you guys to look through yourselves. But that's pretty much it for the patch notes for update 23, guys, and there is a ton of them, and I'm sorry it took me like 2 hours to do this video, but there was a lot of changes. And yeah, I hope you guys like it. So that is it for this video, guys. If you guys like this video, go ahead and hit that like button. If you guys want to see more videos by me, you can subscribe. Other than that, I want to thank you all for watching. Until next time, have a wonderful day, and this guy might see you in game. Bye.